Hey everyone, this is Derrick Broze with the Conscious Resistance Network, and today we're going to talk about Jeffrey Epstein, Alan Dershowitz, and Kevin Spacey. But first, I want to remind you guys to bookmark theconsciousresistance.com, visit our website to get all of our latest content. You can download our books for free, you can buy shirts, and of course, you come down here, scroll down here, put your email in, and make sure you put an email that you're actually going to check, and subscribe to our newsletter, which I send out every single weekend on Saturday or Sunday. So let's get right into it. New York Daily News broke a news story in the last week, actually about a week ago now. Second woman claims billionaire perv Jeffrey Epstein directed her to have sex with Alan Dershowitz. And you may know Alan Dershowitz was one of the lawyers representing Jeffrey Epstein. He's a powerful lawyer who's connected to Harvard, and he's been around for a long time, and he's very well known. And he was implicated previously by one of the women who accused Jeffrey Epstein of recruiting her for sex slavery and sex trafficking, Virginia Roberts, who we've talked about before. Virginia Roberts had also accused Alan Dershowitz of this. And of course, Alan Dershowitz went around all the news shows and basically said that she was crazy and she was wrong. Now we have new details that a second victim is saying that Epstein directed her to have sex with Dershowitz. And this came about through a second lawsuit, which was settled just in the last week. A second lawsuit regarding Epstein, where Epstein also settled out of court. You guys may remember December 4th, I was in Palm Beach, Florida for the kind of more well-known, bigger case, the civil case against the lawyer Bradley Edwards. This is a second ongoing case that just came to a conclusion. It says the revelation regarding Sarah Ransom's allegations against the 80-year-old lawyer who represented the notorious sex offender is included in a public transcript available in Manhattan federal court. Ransom has sued Epstein and his alleged madam, Jill Zane Maxwell, saying they trafficked her from 2006 to 2007 while she was in her 20s. So 2006 to 2007, think about this. 2005 is when the original investigation on Epstein began. So this is, if these claims are true, then Epstein and Maxwell never stopped recruiting women. He simply left Florida and went up to New York and then continued his practices. During a November 7th hearing on Ransom's case, Maxwell's attorney Laura Menninger mentioned the explosive allegations against Dershowitz. Ransom has alleged not only that my client ran a sex trafficking organization, but she claims also that she was directed by my client and the Epstein defendants to have sex with third parties, including Alan Dershowitz, for example, the lawyer said. So the lawyer just kind of threw this off the top of her head and just mentioned Alan Dershowitz for whatever reason. And of course, Dershowitz says, this is not true. None of this happened. The woman's unstable. And he says the woman bizarrely claimed to be in possession of a video of President Trump engaging in pedophilia and sex tapes of both Bill and Hillary Clinton. Of course, they say this woman's just crazy. Ransom is unwell and being manipulated by her high-powered attorney, David Boies, Dershowitz said. And Dershowitz, of course, says the villain here is the attorney who's exploiting this crazy woman in order to get revenge against me. Dershowitz, who is a Harvard law professor, said that the woman's lawyer, David Boies, is upset because Dershowitz had filed bar charges against him, claiming that he was defaming Dershowitz's character by taking on these lawsuits. And Boies responds saying, Alan Dershowitz's absurd attacks on me are consistent with his pattern of attacking every lawyer who has represented women who have accused him of sexual abuse. This is simply a pattern where he thinks if he is loud enough and crazy enough, it will distract attention from what he's done. And as I mentioned, Virginia Roberts was the first woman to claim that Epstein made her have sex with Dershowitz. Dershowitz tried to say he'd never met Roberts and that he'd never been on Epstein's plane and that he'd never been to the island. Of course, as I'll show you in a moment, that was found later to be false. And then Dershowitz changed his story and said, oh, well, I did receive massages, but I was there with my family. And, these were just Swedish, regular massages. And there was nothing, nasty about it. So in a letter filed in Manhattan federal court, Dershowitz's attorney writes that the law professor has been a victim of selective leaking intended to smear his good name. Once again, Mr. Dershowitz, who is conscientiously and expeditiously pressed through the judicial process for disclosure of all documents in the case, has been the victim of one-sided and selective leaking of materials. So Dershowitz is saying he's trying to get access to these documents, which will prove that he is, conclusively that he is innocent, but that the courts are holding onto the records, and he's trying to get them out. Now, Dershowitz is this high-powered attorney, and he's saying that he can't get access to the records. That may or may not be true because maybe Epstein doesn't want them out or other people don't want them out. But Dershowitz is a pretty capable attorney, and I think that if he wanted to get something released to him, he probably would not have too big of a problem doing so. So the interesting thing here is, like I said, Dershowitz had lied about this before. He previously told Axios that the billionaire had once let him and his family stay at his Palm Beach home. Quote, he lent us his house and I was there. My grandchildren were there. My daughter was there, and we all got massages. It was therapeutic. I had a therapeutic massage with an old Russian. Believe me, if I had known anything improper had ever taken place in that house, I never would have allowed my children, my grandchildren, my wife, my daughter-in-law, my son to have spent there. So he says he got a massage from an old Russian lady, and it was just therapeutic. But when you remember that Epstein used the word massage as code for what he was really doing, which was raping and molesting these young girls, and these young girls, and in his little black book, the names of the women that we know for sure that he molested and raped and brought into sex trafficking, their names were written under massage. So it would say New York City, massage, and a list of girls. Palm Beach, massage, list of girls, and things like that. So when Dershowitz says, oh, this is just a massage, there's reasons to be skeptical. The Miami Herald also picked up on this case. Julie K. Brown, who's the one who did the deep investigation into Epstein recently. An Epstein sex case is settled. Dershowitz denies latest allegations. And they're pretty much just reprinting what they did over there in the New York Daily News, but there is a couple of things I want to mention. It says, according to the recent court transcript, among those people that Ransom claimed she was directed to have sex with, Alan Dershowitz was one of them, and he may have been a co-conspirator. Dershowitz told the Miami Herald that he's never met Ransom, nor has he ever had sex with her. And again, he accused the attorney of trying to just make money off him. He says, I am the victim. David Bowie and these women are the perpetrators. They have willingly and deliberately concocted stories, and in order to make money, millions and millions of dollars. I will not rest until the entire story comes out. And then it says, nowhere in the court case or the transcript does Ransom or anyone else allege that Ransom had sex with Dershowitz, only that she was directed to do it. So again, nobody says that. It just, the lawyer brought it up out of nowhere. For some reason, Jill Zane Maxwell's lawyer brought this up, and maybe they're trying to throw, Dershowitz under the bus. I'm not sure, but reading the whole federal transcript, for some reason, this is a big problem with mainstream. For some reason, they don't actually post or link to their copy of the federal transcript. Yes, anybody can get it, but I mean, come on. In this day and age, we need to see what you're talking about. We don't take your word for gospel. The ransom settlement, which is confidential, comes 2 weeks after Epstein settled another lawsuit. Of course, I was there for that. And basically, what this means is that if it's true that Epstein and Dershowitz continued what they were doing and didn't stop, they just simply, like I said, moved to a different part of the country and continued to do that. And I mean, it would fit Epstein's pattern, because he is a sick man, and we know that according to the records that he would have dozens of girls at his house a day, and there were hundreds of victims, and it makes sense. Ransom, this woman in this case, claimed that in her early 20s she was recruited to work as a masseuse for Epstein, who in exchange promised he would help her get into fashion design in New York, according to her civil lawsuit filed in January 2017. Epstein and Maxwell then kept her passport and threatened to ruin her life and physically harm her if she didn't have sex with him and others in 2006 and 2007, Ransom said in the complaint. The complaint alleges that this all occurred at the same time as Epstein's lawyers were negotiating with Acosta and other federal prosecutors for a deal to avoid sex trafficking charges. That's the original case that we've been talking about. So under the plea deal, of course, the non-prosecution agreement, people were allowed to get away. And the complaint from this new woman says that even as Epstein, Maxwell, and other defendants and their attorneys were busy arguing Epstein's innocence and publicly defaming his victims as liars, defendants merely changed their location from Palm Beach to other places in the U.S., including the Southern District of New York, and abroad, and brought them to Epstein's mansion in New York City and his private island in the Virgin Islands. So again, these just, I don't know, it continues to go on. And Dershowitz, in interviews with the Miami Herald and in recent public statements, says, of course, he has nothing to do with this. And he says that she is not credible. And he says he has a trove of emails between Ransom and a reporter that apparently a reporter at the New York Post who Ransom tried to sell the story to, that said that he said proves she's a lunatic. Dershowitz says, quote, there are hundreds of emails in which she claimed to have sex with everybody in the world. Also claims she has a video of Hillary, Bill, Donald Trump, and others having sex with underage girls, but she never ever accused me in these emails. The emails are sealed, he said, and therefore cannot be made public. And this is where he said he asked the court to unseal them, but his efforts have been unsuccessful. So there's mention of sex tapes with Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, Donald Trump, and other famous people, and they kind of call this a bizarre claim and they brush it off, but I don't know. And as far as Dershowitz, like I said, when you look at the evidence of him, he's been proven to be a liar already about this case. He tried to totally deny anything, but now we know that he at least lied about. See, it says right here, Jeffrey Epstein sex scandal, Alan Dershowitz suffers setback in defamation case. This was back in 2016. So like I said, he was trying to fight defamation. He was trying to file a defamation charges for the lawyers who are defending Virginia Roberts, the first woman who claimed that she had sex with Alan Dershowitz. And he says, I never flew on the plane with very inappropriate underage women. I never flew on the plane. I never flew on the plane during the time Epstein knew her. I can account for every single trip on Jeffrey Epstein's airplane. I never had sex with anyone on this plane. I never had sex with anyone on any airplane in my life. And yeah, so, do you believe him? He's been found in a lie before. Now, the one thing I will say is, look, how come Harvard, people in this day and age, when anybody does anything wrong, people say, we must cut ties with this person. And yet Harvard University has made no effort, as the Harvard Crimson newspaper here notes, that they have made no effort to distance themselves from Epstein or from Dershowitz. Epstein allegedly directed second woman to have sex with Harvard professor. Dershowitz, court documents state. And thankfully, these students, the Crimson staff writers, actually went and talked to Dershowitz, which I'm sure was not the most comfortable thing, because this dude is extremely well liked around Harvard, as is Epstein, because Epstein, when you start to look into Epstein's history, he's given millions and millions of dollars. He wasn't a student at Harvard. He wasn't a professor. He didn't even go to college. He wasn't, he has nothing to do with the university other than the fact that he gives them lots of money. And so the administration, if you look into these articles and in others on the Harvard Crimson, the administration has so far refused to distance themselves. Some people, when they found out all the things that Epstein was involved with, some institutions actually returned the money back and said, we don't want your money. But Harvard has not done that. And Dershowitz is still there. And interestingly, of course, if you look at the comments, there are people accusing the writers of anti-Semitism because Dershowitz is Jewish. So they're saying, that this is just anti-Semitic. And, I love conspiracy theories, but yours is particularly lame. And yeah, so it's just interesting that people are willing to reject this. But also, I will say there is some hypocritical element to this, that different people who, especially like the Me Too movement, they haven't really spoke up about Epstein. They haven't really spoke up about Dershowitz and all these different people. And Harvard, as I said, is not distancing themselves from him. So I don't know. This is interesting stuff. We need to pay attention to it. Maybe somebody should put pressure on Harvard if they actually give a damn, but I doubt they do. One last thing I wanted to mention is Kevin Spacey, because as some of you will remember, Kevin Spacey is one of Epstein's friends. His name and number were listed in Epstein's little black book. And we now know that Spacey was also accused of molesting young boys, actors that he worked with who were younger, and just, sexually abusing them. And now, recently, a story broke that that Spacey has actually been charged, and he's going to be going to court January 7th to face allegations of sexually abusing an 18-year-old boy from prosecutors in Massachusetts. District Attorney Michael O'Keefe said that Spacey would appear in court in the new year in connection with the incident at a bar in Nantucket, Massachusetts, more than 2 years ago, where he faces a single charge of indecent assault and battery. And so he's being accused of sexually assaulting a former TV news anchor's 18-year-old son, buying him alcohol and jerking him off or whatever. And then the weird thing is, Spacey releases a video on YouTube on Monday titled "Let Me Be Frank," in which he is essentially playing the character Frank Underwood from the popular Netflix TV series House of Cards, which I used to like. And yeah, it definitely sucks whenever you find like an actor or somebody you care about or like, or you're interested in their content, whether they're a music producer or actor or actress, whatever, and you find out that they're a piece of shit, or that they, I don't know, that it sucks, right? But this is a whole other discussion. Should we be able to separate the art from the person? Like, can you still watch a Kevin Spacey movie and be like, oh, this is a good movie, without feeling creeped out and knowing that the dude was touching on young boys? I don't know. I guess that's up to each individual. But I will say, the choice to play this character here, and if you haven't seen this video, I will link it below. But if you've watched House of Cards, Frank Underwood's character is willing to kill people, willing to lie, to cheat, to steal. He's a politician, right? And in this video, he plays that character and he basically says, like, you think you know the whole truth, but you don't know the truth. And he's like kind of challenging the audience to stand by him and to not judge him. And he just kind of like says something along the lines like, you know, if you think I got here without, you know, fighting for it, then, you know, you don't know me, or something along those lines. Like, he's being defiant, essentially, is what it comes down to. And the video is called Let Me Be Frank. It's got 4.5 million views just in one day. And obviously the internet's blowing up about it. And I don't know, it's just weird. And maybe Kevin Spacey is feeling extra safe because he's connected to Epstein, or because he knows stuff, or maybe he's going to go into court and talk about it, or he's going to try to cut a deal so that things that he knows don't get revealed. I don't know. He's connected to Epstein, and Epstein's connected to all kinds of other people. It's going to be interesting to see how this unfolds. And then we have this I found just kind of as a little aside, that Kevin Spacey video director commentary. This is the director who, I guess he says his name is Skip Sullivan, who directed this little short film, and he talks all about it and how they did it and how Kevin Spacey contacted him. Of course, the comments are disabled for this video, interestingly enough. And it kind of offers some interesting background. I decided to look up Skip Sullivan, the director, and who is he? Skip Sullivan, director. I found that he worked for Disney. And it says, purported director of Kevin Spacey video says his girlfriend quit when she learned that he was working with Kevin Spacey. He says that in the video, if you listen to it, he says that he had hired his girlfriend to come work on the set and help him develop this because Kevin didn't want anybody else. It was just the one guy being director, costume, like everything, right? He got all the pieces together, and he did it all on his own with a very minimal crew. And he wanted his girlfriend to help. Kevin, you know, when she showed up and realized it was Kevin Spacey, she quit, and then apparently she broke up with him too. So I clicked the link, and this is already taken down. This is Showbiz 411, and it's already gone, but you can still see the dead link to it. So I don't know. Interesting little aspect of this. Kevin Spacey being a weirdo, facing charges. Dershowitz under fire again for his connection to Epstein and potentially forcing people to have sex and things like that. And of course, Epstein out there still walking free. We wait to see if the federal judge will overturn his non-prosecution agreement and if he can actually face future consequences. Until then, we will continue to follow the story. Let me know what you guys think below. I appreciate all your support. Please continue to like, follow, share, subscribe, and bookmark our website, theconsciousresistance.com. Until next time, remember, you are powerful, you are beautiful, and you are free. Peace.